Sadiq Khan stands accused of covering up rape gang cases in London. The allegation is this, that Sadiq Khan read reports of young girls being raped in hotels by groups of men, as well as other horrific cases, and then publicly denied there were any grooming gangs in the capital. The reports of alleged rape gangs between 2016 and 2025 involving 6 potential victims at least. These include the case of a 15-year-old girl who was raped by several men before going missing for 4 days. She was eventually found with a 21-year-old man. Another case involved a 13-year-old girl, deemed to be high risk. Police officers identified 2 men that were suspected of sexually exploiting her. There was a report in November 2016, 2 victims, one of whom was a 16-year-old, claimed to have been raped numerous times over a 3-year period by a group of men in London who then threatened to harm her and her family. Another girl was aged just 13. She went missing overnight and was reported to police as being unsafe and in a room with 3 men. The Daily Mail claims that Sadiq Khan actually provided formal statements in response to each of these reports, dating back as far as 2016. He described one as, quotes, deeply troubling. Sadiq Khan is on record saying there are, quotes, no reports and no indication of Rochdale or Rotherham-style grooming gangs in London. That claim now looks highly questionable, especially when you look at this from our national reporter, Charlie Peters. It shows an organised network of girls being trafficked for sexual abuse into London from places like Oxford and Bradford. In fact, the witness testimony from one victim and survivor is that she was repeatedly brutally raped by Pakistani men and sent to London's Paddington Station to be raped in numerous different properties. The details of that case have been publicly available since 2013. How can Sadiq Khan claim that he was not aware of things like that? And he makes his comments here all the more shameful.
So are you saying we haven't got the same sort of gangs that are in Rotherham, Bradford and lots of other places in the country?
Just for what's a misunderstanding, what does she mean by that?
You know full well what I mean by that. It's all over the television. You know exactly what I mean by that. These gangs of people that are grooming young girls for sex. Do we actually have those in London?
I'm unclear, Chair, what is meant by the question. If you could spell it out, I can answer.
Ridiculous. A fully costed grooming gang inquiry into London was actually voted down by Sadiq Khan's Labour, the Greens and the Liberal Democrats. And today, 2 victims and survivors have resigned from the National Grooming Gang Inquiry Board. Why? Well, in part because it looks like they want to put either police or social workers in charge of it, the very group of people who are implicated in the cover-up. And those survivors are concerned that broadening the scope of the inquiry will now shift the focus away from the Pakistani Muslim aspect of the rape gangs. Sadiq Khan strongly denies that he's part of a cover-up. Whether he is or not is very much a matter for his conscience, isn't it? But what seems crystal clear to me is this. People in positions of power, right across the board, are trying to do everything they can to stop the public from knowing how many Pakistani Muslim men raped and abused young white girls.
Hello, I'm Bev Turner. Now, it can feel like the money in our bank accounts at the moment does not keep up with the cost of living, and maybe there's a solution. I'm here today with the CEO of TallyMoney, Cameron Parry. Cameron, what is TallyMoney?
Well, Bev, with TallyMoney, you get a current account and a debit card, but instead of pounds, you use milligrams of gold as your everyday money.
So why gold?
Gold traditionally is a great store of value. It has, on average, gone up at over 11% per annum for the last 25 years against the pound. It's tripled in value in the last decade. And in the last 2 years alone, it's increased by 50% against the pound. Banks' savings products just can't compete with that level of growth.
But this isn't just about gold. This is about a currency that you guys have created at TallyMoney. Explain it to me as though I'm an idiot.
So, look, people need to be able to hold their earnings and build their savings in a money that retains its value and remains in their legal control and remains theirs to access, away from government control.
Great. You had me at not exposed to government control.
You should feel safe and happy with your money. You should have peace of mind the more money you see in your bank balance, and that's the type of thing we're trying to deliver and give people choice in the type of money they get to use every day.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Cameron. Thank you.
Let's get the thoughts of my panel. We've got Daily Express columnist Carol Malone. We've also got trade unionist Andy Twells and Reform Party politician, former chair of the Tory party, Sir Jake Berry. Carol, lots to go out there, and I will just say very shortly we're going to talk to the journalist that kind of blew the lid off the alleged Sadiq Khan grooming gang cover-up. But just focusing on what some of the victims and survivors have said today, that they believe that there is an attempt to try to take the focus off the Pakistani Muslim aspects of this.
You know, Patrick, this happened right at the beginning when the Rochdale and Rotherham gangs were first exposed. And we were told, as a reporter, and I was reporting on them at the time, as a reporter, we were told not to say it was Pakistani Muslim gangs. We were told to just say it was sex gangs. And it wasn't until, I think it was the Daily Mail was the first paper to just print headshots of all of the people who'd been convicted. And funnily enough, they were all Pakistani Muslims. So that made it easier for us all to then report. So, yeah, it has always been the case that they have tried to cover up this aspect of it. And it must not be covered up because that's what this is all about. And I saw the young lady that you were interviewing before there saying that it's impossible that Khan would not have known about this. 4 reports he saw and responded to. And you remember there was a guy, a top cop called John Wedger, who brought up 52 instances of child abuse. He was talking about these girls being taken to hotels, being swapped for rocks of crack cocaine, being sold at 2,000 quid a time in top-end Arab restaurants in London. He gave all this stuff to the cops, the police at the time, and he was told to bury it. He was told if he carried on with it, he would lose his job, his family, his home, everything. So the cops are still trying to cover it up. Social services are still trying to cover it up. And Sadiq Khan, that bit of film you just saw at the London Assembly is shameful that a mayor of London can pretend he doesn't know what a grooming gang is.
Yeah, well, it's ridiculous.
Let's point out this guy, Sadiq Khan, has 2 young daughters. Has the guy got no conscience, no shame? It's appalling. He should be got rid of.
Jay, just on the broader issue of... So, Sir Keir Starmer was dragged kicking and screaming into a national grooming gang inquiry. And then it's emerged now that the 2 potential chairs of that, one's a police officer and one used to work in the social sector, 2 areas that need to be urgently investigated. It's like, you know, but let you mark your own homework in an extent, isn't it? And that the victims and survivors were told to send pre-vetted questions to these people. Yeah. And then on top of that, they are actively trying to broaden the remit so it is not an inquiry into Pakistani rape gangs.
Well, I thought Fiona Goddard, the young woman you had on, who spoke very, very movingly about both her experience having been exploited and being a survivor of these rape gangs, but also about her experience really being gagged. I just thought it was extraordinary. The first thing they made them do is sign this gagging clause and then sort of said to them, right, OK, you can choose from 2 potential chairmen of the inquiry. One's a police officer, someone who's an organisation, a group of people who've deeply let you down as a victim, or a social worker, another organisation and group of people who've deeply let you down. For those 2 poor women who've resigned today, it's almost like re-victimising. It's really, really cruel. And what I'd say about this, it also has the sort of the smell of really disgraceful other government cover-ups, like the Horizon scandal with the post office, with the sub-postmasters, some of whom were sent to prison. It is just the establishment scrabbling as fast as it can to sort of brush over its tracks so people can't see what they knew and when. And as I say, that young woman you had on, so brave. And I'm so pleased that you gave her the airtime to talk to GB News viewers tonight.
Well, I would have liked to have given her much more airtime, actually. But anyway, so there's the issue here, unquestionably, seems to be that there is yet another attempt to try to take the focus off how prevalent the Pakistani Muslim community is when it comes to these rape gangs. That's what the survivors are saying.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, I'm not a solicitor or a barrister. I don't know too much about inquiries. I'd imagine it probably should have been chaired by an independent barrister shouldn't have been chaired by a former cop or a former social worker, because they're probably not... Biggest of respect to those people for putting themselves out to do it. I'm sure they're great guys, but, like, do you know what I mean? I think it probably should have been a legal professional, someone who is clearly independent, someone who really knows the law very well. I think that is probably what it should have been. I think on your point about Sadiq Khan earlier, I think the idea that he's covered it up is a bit of a misnomer. No. I think that implies that the cover-us up in Rotherham or, you know, in Oxford or wherever, they were fundamental cover-ups. They were actively contributing covering-ups.
He read 4 reports that talked about grooming.
And he acknowledged it, didn't he? In his response. So he didn't cover it up. He publicly
No, he didn't publicly acknowledge it. He privately acknowledged it in emails. He did not publicly acknowledge it. He denied
Didn't he write a response to it?
He denied it publicly. But in which case, if he cares about these young women, as he's always talking about, he cares about victims of abuse, why did he turn down a 4.9 million inquiry into grooming gangs in London? Why did he turn that down if he cares about young women?
I think you'll have to ask.
What do you mean he don't know? He turned it down because he doesn't want the story to come out.
No, I think the real thing is, you know, Susan Hall, the failed mayoral candidate.
That's got nothing to do with anything.
Absolutely,
she held his feet to the fire and he behaved like an idiot.
She's trying to play bizarre politics with quite a serious issue.
Politics?
She's getting in.
No, hang on. No, you cannot say... She asked him a very simple question.
Well, it wasn't simple at all.
Very simple. Do you know if there are any grooming gangs in London? And he obfuscated. He actually pretended he didn't understand the question. He said, explain what I mean. 9 times she asked him that question, and 9 times he refused to answer.
Well, he did know, didn't he? This is the thing.
Can I just respond?
Just go through that.
He did know.
But just go through that. It's right. He obviously did know. And
well, I think, he's written public responses to it before.
Yes.
So why didn't he come out and say it at the time?
So I think in that mayor's questions, obviously I can't speak for Sadiq Khan. I wasn't there. I'm not advising him.
Well, you just seen it.
Yeah, I know. I watched it. If you'd let me have a moment, Carol, please. I think the issue is that grooming gangs is an extremely broad thing. It can be grooming into county lines. It can be grooming into sex trafficking.
So you're doing it
in
now.
London. There are lots of grooming gangs into county lines. There aren't that many that are sex gangs like the ones in Rotherham. That's the issue.
She was trying to make
about that. She was trying to make a political point out of it, and she failed.
I say there is, in my view, a warped belief and ideology on the left in this country, particularly represented by the Labour Party and people like Sadiq Khan, who feel that if you admit that this is taking place, it will in some way destabilise the country. It will, demonstrate to the British public that immigration has been negative, or that there are some, communities or groups of people who are more likely to commit crime. And they think that's destabilising. I say, so what? Let the British people see the truth and make their own minds up. Do not cover these things up. Do not, spare these vile individuals who are raping our young girls from proper scrutiny, because your political ideology thinks that it's unhelpful to have a particular group in society identified as the perpetrators. If that is the facts of the situation, let the people see the facts. They can make their own minds up.
We've been here before, OK? So the fact is that we've had issues in the past where they've not been open about the Pakistani Muslim aspect of this, where police forces across the country have admitted that one of the reasons why they allowed this to go on for so long was because they were afraid of seeming racist.
Absolutely.
And this has been now the most public this issue has ever been in the past few months. Thanks to Charlie.
And the cover-up is continuing.
And now they're trying to put it back in the box.
With this level of focus on it, knowing that these rape gang survivors are now... They've summoned up the strength to be able to come out publicly one more time and put themselves, relive all of this trauma, and now they're trying to make them essentially sign gagging orders, have the people who are from industries that need to be investigated as part of it, and then also trying to hide from us, again, the true scale of the Pakistani Muslim problem.
They don't give a stuff about these young women, about their wrecked lives, about what's happened, and they're just performing this inquiry. It's a box-ticking exercise. They don't give a stuff.
What did you think of the 2022 inquiry that the Tories did? All those recommendations, they didn't implement them. Would you condemn that?
Well, of course I'd condemn that. All I care about is the women at the heart of it all, and they haven't had justice in any way, shape or form. Not from Tories, and certainly not now from Labour. Labour has had the chance to rectify that, and they're not doing it. They're trying to put it back in the box and say, let's not just blame Pakistani Muslim gangs for this. This is happening everywhere. No, what we're talking about and what that young woman was talking about tonight was the Pakistani gangs.
So when Sadiq Khan is on record as saying that he hasn't seen any evidence of grooming gangs in London, right, Is that a lie?
Is this based off the clip?
Based off the clip and also the quote.
What he said,
His own report.
He said there were no reports of grooming gangs in the capital.
That's not true of Rotherham and another
He said
style.
in the capital.
Yeah.
No reports of grooming gangs in the capital.
It was of
even
X-style,
no
it was a very specific
indication
style.
and no
He
indication.
denied that
You're
there was
not
an extremely
listening.
specific
I'm telling you
style.
what he said.
You're reading the wrong
hear.
quote. You're
I'm
reading
not
the wrong
reading
quote.
the wrong
You are
quote.
reading the wrong
And
quote,
no
Carol.
indication of their existence.
Carol, you are reading the wrong quote.
Let me...
Oh,
well, I don't think she is, actually. But
I'm not reading.
Let me bring
Please
up this
read
case
it out.
from 2013.
He wasn't mayor in 2013.
Yeah, I know.
We're not
This is the
talking
point. Let
about
me
that.
finish. Child prostitute ring groomed and then raped vulnerable girls. So there was evidence of grooming gangs operating in the capital city, of which he has been mayor since 2016, going as far back as 2013. So for him to sit there and say that there's been no evidence of it, or to pretend like he doesn't know what we're talking about...
Can you read him the quote? Because the quote I've got
is
this about no reports of grooming gangs
It was a
in
specific
the
style of
capital.
grooming. I don't think he'd ever denied there's grooming gangs in the capital.
Well, he
there are
did.
lots of grooming gangs in the
He
capital.
did.
Whether it's county lines, whether it's sex trafficking, there are plenty.
Why do you
it's the
think-
specific type that he denied.
If there has been a cover-up by Sadiq Khan, why do you think that is, Jake?
Well,
I genuinely think it's part of his belief. I can't speak for him, but it appears from his behaviour he has a belief that if you talk about the unifying element of this across our nation, across England, which is the Pakistani Muslim connection, that it will destabilise London, its population, and it will undermine people's view of the positive nature of immigration to London.
Yeah.
As I say, I think he's wrong. I think people are quite capable of looking at the facts and making their own minds up. And when you get to the point, Carol, let me finish. When you get to the point where the government, agencies, the government, police, social services, the mayor, the councils in London, when you get to the point that people understand or think that they are hiding information from them, you have a general collapse in people's trust in institutions, which is much more damaging, actually. This is what Sadiq Khan should think about. It's much more damaging than finding wrongdoers and saying these are vile, horrible individuals, we should punish them.
It's also, look, now is the time, right? There's this inquiry. It's supposed to get right into the weeds of this in a way that no other inquiry has, and rip right through every single echelon of society, whether it's magistrates, whether it's the police, whether it's care sector, all of that stuff.
Politicians, no one should be protected.
If they are trying to cover things up about the aspect of the Pakistani Muslim element, the logical conclusion that I would come to there is that the truth is so awful that it would have massive, massive consequences for Britain. And we're going to get the truth, one way or the other. So they might as well be a part of that.
Are we?
I suppose we are, because it's not going away. A spokesperson for the Mayor of London told GB News it is not a cover-up, and instead said, Sadiq is committed to doing all he can to protect children in London from organised criminal and sexual exploitation and bring perpetrators to justice. This includes his £15.6 million Violence and Exploitation Support Service, which provides specialist support for young Londoners who are vulnerable, caught up in or being exploited by criminal gangs in the capital, as well as supporting the Met to deliver a new child-first approach to safeguarding and enforcement actions to tackle county lines. We've also got a spokesperson for the Metropolitan Police who said, we are utterly committed to protecting vulnerable children and bringing those responsible to justice. Our data shows that group-based child sexual abuse and exploitation picture in London is more varied than in other parts of the country and does not neatly align with patterns of methodology, ethnicity or nationality seen elsewhere and reported extensively. Well, there you go. I mean, people can make that what they do.
Took it away from the Pakistani Muslim gangs there. He brought in every other aspect of looking after young people. He was moving it away. Exactly what we're talking about.
And I think the complacency there from the Met is absolutely appalling. It's a deeply flawed institution, and this independent inquiry, a London-based one or the national one, needs to look at